Welcome to the Rob Liefeld Show featuring Robservations. I bring over 40 years experience in comic books and entertainment across 5 decades. I offer insights and opinions on the business and the art of comic books and pop culture. If it's happening in games, in movies, in streaming, or comic books, we're covering it right here on the Robservations Show. Hey everybody, and welcome to an all-new edition of Robservations. I'm your host, Rob Liefeld, as I have been for 5 years and 400 umpteen plus episodes of this show. And if you notice something different, this is the first one that you likely will be watching, because I am finally, after so many requests, it is the most requested aspect of the Robservation Show is, Rob, move into video, get into video. So here we are taking the big first steps to get into video. I'll try and keep my hand chops to a minimum, because boy, do I use you're going to see just how much of my hands are slapping and chopping as they have been for all these many episodes. I am just having the best time doing this show, and this is going to be a little bit of a different lift for me, so bear with me as I get used to it and we move towards the video component. Let me tell you something. The entire reason not to do video is because you got to shower. You got to be presentable. You can't have the greasy bedhead. You got to be semi kempt. Not as unkempt as you can be when there's no there's no camera. You know how many times I just get up out of bed and record an episode? I'll get ready later in the day. So for all intents and purposes, like I said, this is a big lift for me. So bear with me as we are definitely going to have some growing pains. If you've ever seen me do if you've ever seen me do interviews on other people's podcasts, this is the space that I do it from. I do a lot of my live streaming also from. This has been my office for the last 11 years. It has been an incredible office that I feel has just been one of the spaces that I have had the most achievements in, artistically, storytelling wise, comic book wise. That's where my focus is. And over the last couple of years, I've actually recorded the podcast in every single room throughout the house. Dining room, Luke's room, Chase's room, not my daughter's room, all manner of different rooms, different parts of this office. But for the backdrop section, until we get a dedicated space, this will be it. Hey, thank you for joining me. Thank you for always taking these incredible journeys with me. I have been taken on a journey by you. You have all taken me on quite a journey. And it's one that I've been really evaluating over the last several, really months. My focus has really come into view as I have talked to you about the difference that I see in the comic book world. And one of the main differences that I see is the aesthetic, is the visual components, the way that comic books are presented and told, and the way that they are laid out and designed. Comic books is a visual medium, just like a movie. It's a visual medium, and I have noticed the visuals of comic books have changed quite a bit. The guys that I grew up in, it was mostly guys. I've done a dedicated podcast on the kick-ass women of comic books, and unfortunately, there's never been an overabundance of them. If you want to say that it's an old boys network, that's fair to level that assessment onto comic books. But the bottom line is, it has always been more of a guy's outlet, for whatever that reason is. There are some great women in the space, but when comics were blowing up, the comics behind me on my spinner rack, which is very much intended as the same spinner rack style, and the vintage. It is a vintage spinner rack from the exact period that I was grabbing comic books off spinner racks. So it's very much a 70s style spin rack. It's creaky. It's exactly. I see a lot of these new spinner racks. I'm just not as into it, but many of these comics that I that changed me, inspired me, carried me through some weird times. The stuff that I have the strongest connection with is largely drawn by men, and then the explosion in the 90's, and that's part of my journey. Part of my journey that I've been going on with you guys is looking back, and there is so much. There is so much, and I think we can all agree on this. There is so much shame put on the 90's. The 80's are held as this lofty, oh my gosh, it's so special. And the 90's carry with it a certain amount of shame because your clerk, who was, the minute that the Matrix came out, started dressing like Neo with his duster and his spiky hair. And trust me, I saw it all over Southern California. All of the different, uh, all of the different clerks suddenly were literally neophytes. They were looking like Neo, um, and it was so immediate in the kind of rejection from all of the aesthetics of the 90's. The 90's was like its own very unique wall of sound. Uh, the wall of sound, Spectre's wall of sound, was was created. He was even quoted. Spectre was even quoted as saying, I initiated the wall of sound to sometimes carry a song that maybe wasn't as great, but I knew that the wall of sound would do its job. And it was you can Google it, you can look it up. I'm not going to go into the specifics here, but it was a confluence of all these different instruments that he had carefully orchestrated and designed to kind of blend together all at once, and it produced all manner of hits. Now, if you're like, no, Liefeld, you're not saying that right. Look, I can go on Google and AI and Wikipedia and come up with, maybe I'm missing a word or two, but that is exactly what was happening. It influenced so much of what was going on around at the time. The wall of sound influenced the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds, and it influenced the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, and it had all manner of different hits. And it was something that overwhelmed an era. It absolutely overwhelmed an era. Grunge overwhelmed an era. And it took over and was the predominant music of almost 4 to 5 years. And we're talking Nirvana, we're talking Pearl Jam, we're talking Soundgarden, and we're talking Stone Temple Pilots. My wife had asked me, because she knows we used to just jam. Stone Temple Pilots was one of our favorites. And she's like, "Hey, can we see them in concert?" I said, "Honey, Scott Weiland is dead. He is passed." And then, of course, that Soundgarden, dead. Obviously, Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. I mean, you're not going to get Soundgarden back together. You're not going to get Nirvana back together. You're not going to get Stone Temple Pilots. There's going to be essential pieces that made those so important. They're all going to be missing. Okay, so that is one of the essential, another example of a wave, of something that happened in a wave, and the visuals of the 90's hit like no wave I have ever seen before. I mean, you're talking. Let's not even let's see if we can name 10 guys outside the Image partners who were engaging in what I would call the Image style of storytelling. And I'm going to tell you right now, I get two right off the bat. I get Andy Kubert, I get Adam Kubert, I get Dale Keown, I get Mark Teixeira, also known as Tex. I can get Ron Lim. So boom, I'm halfway there. I get Sam Keith. Okay, the stuff that he was doing on Marvel Comics Presents with the Wolverine and Cyber before he came around and did Max. Let's go. Let's go to Joe Madureira. Let's go to Mike Turner. Because they were the younger crowd, and then if you go, no, you're naming Image guys still, but Joe Mad, that was happening with Joe Mad over in the space at Marvel prior to him coming over and doing Cliffhanger through Image. So for my last two, I'll just say that I believe Dan Jurgens had adopted to that Image style storytelling when he was doing Superman over at DC Comics. And then I would even say somebody like a Ron Garney who did Captain America before I took it over. He adopted very much an image style, bigger, splashier figures, twisting, moving. So there's 10 guys outside of the best known guys who are doing the image style. And that style was based on energy and movement and really the enhancement and the focus of giant figures in action. And yes, there were some exaggerated portions. Some of those people that I just told you, go look at Mark Texiera, Tex, his run on Wolverine. Wolverine looks like he is 10 feet tall. He is no longer a short little man. Some of the issues and the pages, the covers that Mark Texiera did, or Teixeira, I've heard some say. I actually know Mark. I've never actually asked him the proper pronunciation, but the big, giant, sprawling figures. Okay, those are Wolverine looked bigger than any bodybuilder, and I'm not just talking the rippling muscles, and I'm talking his size. He suddenly looked like a giant. Sam Keith's Wolverine and Max traded in tiny pinheads for shoulders and biceps that were bigger than the head. Okay, these are Simon Beasley. His Lobo work and beyond were giant, uber ripped muscles, veins. Stephen Platt. And you know what, guys? Your memories of this stuff right now, as it's hitting you, you're smiling. You dug that stuff. You dug that. The compositions when Andy Kubert, the Kuberts were much quieter. They were like a Mark Silvestri in their journey. They had they were more quiet in their original offerings when they first broke in. They were doing like Predator, Batman, some early stuff that they were doing. Very obviously well taught, well schooled from their dad, Joe Kubert, who is an absolute legend, legacy talent, generational, touchstone of comic books. But they adopted. They went bigger. They Adam and Andy both made bigger figures, put an emphasis on giant double page splashes, and moved the camera in a way to give the most extreme of movements. And of course, it was going through all of our work because we had grown up on these guys, like the guys that I mention all the time, the Jim Starlins, the George Perez's, the Howard Chaykin's, John Byrne, even Art Adams, who is very important to this entire movement. But Art didn't do big, not the way we did big. We did big in an incredible way. And it was like if Wall of Sound was something in music, we were like the tsunami of movement, okay? And our stuff just moved. And the journey that you've taken me on is to appreciate over this 5 years. I'm a product of the 90s. I am a product of the 90s. And part of my journey, part of my appreciation has been you guys communicating to me. When I talk to you about all the different groups that I go in Facebook, and I'm very active on Facebook, I was leaving Facebook because I didn't really have I didn't see where it fit in the world of Twitter before it was called X and Instagram. But I've mentioned it often that groups played a huge role in transforming my interest in Facebook. Art groups, comic book groups, character groups. I got a group. I suddenly found myself completely giving over to the groups. And the groups were what really what absolutely just completely transformed my interest and started re-engaging me. Bronze Age groups, 90s groups, X-Men groups. And guys, when I talk about groups, I'm not saying 15 people here. You guys, these groups, in some cases, they have hundreds of thousands of members. And you click on top, you are in a group that has 187,000 members. So keeping track of comments and interaction can get just absolutely insane. These are giant, well-populated groups. And I see people bringing up stuff that they absolutely love from the 90s. And a through line that's happening right now, especially the last couple of years, people are largely dissatisfied with the majority. I'm saying the majority. The word that I'm focused on is majority. The majority of the visuals that are being shared are lacking. They're lacking in dynamics. They're lacking in gesture. They're lacking in creative staging. Some of the stuff is so pedestrian. It is like I've said in the How to Draw Comic Books the Marvel Way. When John Buscema lays out, here's how he does it with businessmen. He does it with superheroes. He lays out a superhero page with the Avengers that if that's the only page you saw, you'd go, that is a great page. But then he says, and it's Cap, Thor, Iron Man, they're in the mansion and they get attacked by some robots. It's an exciting page. But then he goes, no, that's not the Marvel way. This is the Marvel way. His camera goes low, his camera goes high, bird's eye view, worm's eye view, the severe tilted up angle. He takes some of the gestures that were kind of mid gestures and he goes more to the extreme. It's incredible. He does it with two lawyers talking and having a tense conversation. It's John Buscema. He's like the Michelangelo of comic book artists. His figure work and faces were second to none. He's got this sequence where these two businessmen, lawyers, it looks like lawyers in a firm, are arguing back and forth. They're in suits. They're at a desk. Then he goes, no, let me tell you the Marvel way. And again, the angles and the compositions of each panel change to favor the heightened drama. What we did was take it a step further, because we weren't going to repeat what the guys that we loved did, because then we're just them. Then we're just John Byrne. Then we're just George Perez. We're just hollow versions of those characters, of those talents. And we decided to go bigger, harder, faster, louder. And many people in these groups are sharing this, and they're talking about the pedestrian approach to pages today. But I'm going to tell you, part of the success comes from grabbing your creative destiny. I've spoken of this before, but I'm going to be really as pointed as I've ever been. And let me first just say, the people in the groups, what they've started to share about the different eras. One guy, it totally backfired. One guy put a double page splash in a very well-populated 50,000 person group. A guy put a Stephen Platt spread from a Moon Knight issue that is really well drawn. It's one of the last things that Stephen Platt did when he was drawing for Marvel Comics, drawing Moon Knight. He then was hired away and came to work for me for 5 years. 5 years Stephen Platt produced work for my Extreme Studios exclusively, but I didn't have an exclusive with him. He was just treated well. He enjoyed the experience. He got great inkers, great coloring. This Moon Knight spread is a double page spread, and from head to toe, it's got Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Moon Knight, Moondragon, a female member of the Avengers. It's got Spider-Man hanging upside down. And the guy who posted it said, we had to put up with a lot of turkeys like this in the 90s. And I was like, that's insane. This is a great spread in any era. Well, lo and behold, I wasn't alone. Almost all of the responses were like, dude, you're crazy. This is great work. And what happens is, I'd take this over anything I'm getting in comics today. This is better than any comic that I'm getting today. I wish there was artwork that looked like this in my comics today. I am only looking at comic books from this era and have stopped buying today's comic. That is a through line. Well, as I have experienced in my own groups, the comments you're hearing again and again and again is, I'm buying back issues. They're cheaper than today's comics. I can get a comic that I grew up with in the 70s, 80s, 90s for $2 in a back issue bin and enjoy it more than the $5, $6 comics that I'm asked to buy right now. And that is a result of what I'm saying is some of the more pedestrian approaches. It's something that I keep talking about here on the show. And again, what was the motto? What was the promise of this? The promise of this season was that I was going to come at you with more honesty and be more forthright. While I have been doing work on and off for Marvel over the last decade, I just bit my tongue. There was all sorts of stuff I didn't like, that I saw that I wasn't thrilled with, stuff that I thought was possibly going in a direction that was detrimental to any one of the many families that I saw happening. but I was working there. I was part of the team. My job at that time was to cheer them on, not to be a detractor. But when I'm done with that, when I'm finished, when I'm walked away and now I am in business full time, 1000% for myself, away from any of the Marvel stuff, away from any DC stuff, I can be more honest. I can be more forthright. I can be more forthcoming in what I believe is dragging some of this stuff down. And I see a lot of stuff trending down, not trending up. And I'm talking about the interiors of the comic book. You know, my new Youngblood came out, and let me just thank you guys right now. Let me just thank you for supporting. This is the manga editions that just came out, but this was the launch edition, which we've sold out of. This was the really the copies at Golden Apple that everyone flipped out for. You guys resuscitated the patient. I'd love to take credit, but it was you guys. You resuscitated the patient. Youngblood was dead. It was dormant. It was inactive for 5 years. It was never something that I believed I could just roll over and reactivate. It had to be through careful planning and through great execution of story and art. And I even had a big time producer call me the other day and tell me, this is the best work you've ever done. This doesn't look, there's nothing on the stands that looks like this. That is by design. That is by design, 1000% by design. And it is a reflection of what I said about creativity and taking over. Before I jumped on today, there was a guy on Twitter. He's an actual Marvel, Ben Morse, formerly of, I don't know if he's still at Marvel Comics, but he talks about how then he literally posted pictures of Cable and the New Mutants and said basically that the writer had to take a back seat because the book had now taken on my dynamics, Rob Liefeld's dynamics, and reflected his interest, his work, his energy. And that's true. It's true. I knew that I could not succeed unless I had control over all of it. Look, Quentin Tarantino doesn't direct other people's movies. He directs Quentin Tarantino screenplays. Steven Spielberg, very quickly in his career, got to the place where he called the shots, where he was able to direct the stories that he wanted told. He would occasionally write them with the screenwriter. Same with Paul Thomas Anderson, with Chris Nolan, obviously Tony Gilroy or Dan Gilroy. That they're generating some of the great scripts on Andor. They have assumed control. Some of your favorite artists are writing what they are directing. We, the guys that we grew up on, my peer group, Frank Miller was on Daredevil. It was great. Roger McKenzie was a very capable writer. Within a few issues, he was gone. Frank Miller, in his very young 20s, had been given the green light to Jim Shooter to take over, to push that writer off. I read an article with Roger McKenzie just about a year back, and he's still harbors ill feelings over how he felt he was dismissed, how he felt he was, he felt like he was doing work and he was given the short shrift, man, just in favor of Frank taking over. He thought we were doing good work together. Well, Frank thought he could do better, and based on the trajectory of not only Frank's career, but the effect that his work had on the characters that he transformed, I think the correct decision was made. But he had to push that guy out of the way. We had to push the guys out of the way. Todd McFarlane had to shed David Michelinie. Eric Larson had to shed David Michelinie. Rob Liefeld had to shed the people that I was interacting with. Jim Lee shed Chris Claremont. Each of us went on to a next level of success because, like the guys before us, we took control of the entire canvas. Because that's what the comic book is. It is your canvas. And we took control of the canvas. We transformed the canvas and used it to change the way comic book stories were being told. And this lasted for a decade. It was one of the lasting impacts. And you know what we did? Because I sat there and said, well, I can do double-page spreads. I can do an entire story of double-page spreads. I did that on Youngblood Strike File with Die Hard. Youngblood Strike File 1 and then 2 and 3 are really me just doing double-page spreads, I wanted to open up the action, make it some of the most brutal, most impactful most kind of dramatic action that I could tell across a double page canvas. I wanted those punches to hit harder. I wanted the speed of the blows and the fights and the thrust of the characters throwing themselves into each other. I wanted that to be on a grander scale, and I did. And you guys came along, just like you're coming along on this. This is why this book is selling out and is one of the biggest successes of my career, because you recognize something here. Because it's been a month now. You guys have been telling me on all the different social medias how much you enjoy this, how much you miss some of this stuff. I knew what I was doing. I wanted to remind you what big, giant spreads in dynamic action across this, but I can do that. Because I'm running this show, I made it 32 pages. I wasn't limited to 20. And it's just like when we did Image Comics. I decided, I mean, the funny thing is, if I'm not, tell me I have this. Oh, do I not have it? Do I not have it? I thought I had the latest issue of the new Youngblood Deluxe. I think I have one right here. There you go. Okay, Youngblood. This is one of my favorites, Youngblood #2, and I look, so splash page. Okay, I could be just as soon. I could be showing you Jack Kirby's work, but it's right behind me. Splash page, and then you know what? I wanted to go with, whoa, double page splash of guy in tube. Okay, big giant visuals. I dictated the page. That somebody told me this is one of their favorites when my character Brahma punches out Prophet. Okay, I dictated the pace. I dictated the layout, the design, the movement of these pages, the length. Did I want to do 25 pages, 28 pages? What did I want to do? Part of what is happening with this generation is they need to assert a control over their destiny, and to do that, they need to move off of the collaboration and just do their thing. Because when you do your thing, you're going to unlock. You are going to completely and totally unlock your potential. You're going to unlock the excitement. You're going to reignite what we've lost. And so what happened with the 90s stuff, we came into the 2000s. And suddenly there was shame. Somebody asked me the other day, who was responsible for so much of the shaming? I'll tell you right now, I would stand next to, I've told you about the 2001, I went to San Diego, I was in disguise. I had sunglasses on, I had a hat that went down to here, I had sunglasses on, I had a button-down shirt, I had a bag that went across me, diagonally across my chest. I wore pants, not shorts. I don't think that you would, I actually told a few people, it's Rob Liefeld, and they're like, what? One guy told me, who knew I was going to kind of come disguised, he goes, there's no way you're going to fool me. I talked to him for 2 minutes before he realized it was me. I was very much undercover. I went to the DC and the Marvel tables as they reviewed people and watched them say, don't do this image stuff. Stop. Draw from life. Draw from photos. Stop doing this exaggerated image stuff. Shame, shame, shame. I heard it out of the editor-in-chief, out of Joe Quesada's mouth. Joe Quesada in 2006, after Wizard World, was part of a group of us that went to dinner at Morton Steakhouse. A gentleman named Dan Buckley was in attendance there. Joseph Loeb III, you know him as Jeff Loeb. John Romita Jr. was there. I was there. Quesada was there. And those are the people that I definitively remember being at the dinner. And it was at that dinner that Joe Quesada then told me that he felt that there were some of my peers, one of them was Todd McFarlane. He told it to my face. He said, you know why Todd stopped drawing, don't you? Because he was going to be exposed. The level of artwork and the level of execution of the form is greater now. I mean, look what's going on with Alex Ross. I mean, and he kept saying Todd was the emperor with no clothes. And for fear of being exposed, he withdrew. And I went, that's not true, but I laughed because Todd had very specific opinions about Joe. And he would talk to me because in the middle of the 90s, Joe wanted us to publish Ash, but he came to the Image partners and said, but you have to make me a partner. And the guy who was most vehemently against that was Todd. Now, I don't know if this is a beef that carried over time, because to me it was really once it was like, no, there's not a chance he's going to be a partner. And then he went and did his own thing. He took Ash and did his own thing. I contracted Joe to do all sorts of illustrations for me. He did a 9-piece cover, and it was more exaggerated and definitely a more extreme style than the one that he is now utilizing. He also, I was at Marvel in around 2007, 2008. No, it was around 2009, right before Deadpool Corps. And he was drawing from photos. He had a photo reference that he was using on his Cintiq to create a Doctor Strange illustration. I love photos as much as the next guy. There are very few people that can pull off the photo reference to the point that it can entertain me as much as some of my favorite stylized guys. But this attitude that artists from the 90s were somehow in retreat because, we were being exposed to. You didn't say it to me. I'm working at Marvel at the time. I'm doing Onslaught Reborn. As this is happening, I am gainfully employed drawing a story with Jeff Loeb celebrating the 10th anniversary of Heroes Reborn, which was, as you know, very controversial across many levels. But he literally leaned in and he said, you know why? And I remember, why are you telling me something that is A, untrue, and B, has no basis in reality and is just a product of your own opinion, or as you wish it to be? That's a great story if that's how you wish it to be, okay? I've seen the prices that Todd McFarlane's art goes for. I've seen the prices that Joe's go for. Be Todd McFarlane, okay? Every time out the gate, be Todd McFarlane. Now, some of these people said really stupid things to us over the course of many years, but it was they wanted to fix the comics industry, and what they thought was wrong with it was the exaggerated proportions and the stylized art. And that brought us into a very dull 2000s. A very dull, and I'm going to tell you, some of these guys, you ask them. You know what? Ask some of these guys who were doing work in the 2000s, the parameters and the restrictions that they were surrounded by, that were placed around them by their editors, by the publisher. There was definitely a desire, and we are kind of living in the aftermath of that. One guy in one of these groups said, I can sense how people moved away from the exaggerated anatomy. And I said, we got into a conversation online. I said, you're right when you use the word shame. There were shamers. And I've already mentioned some of them who were like, don't do that, don't do that. Some of the most, there were a couple guys who were really into the exaggerated space who then went photo reference. Okay, that wasn't an accident. That's what they believed they had to do in order to get work, be gainfully employed. So, yeah, it's just some crazy times. And what I see now is a hunger to go back to those big, splashy, dramatic, dynamic. Comic books is its own unique art form. We are not like movies. Things aren't moving. When you go to manga right now, to the really popular manga section that has 30 shelves for manga compared to 4 for American comics, it's actually more than that. I mean, it's more like 48 shelves compared to 12. I mean, we are talking about just insanity, just flat out insanity in regards to what in regards to in regards to the exaggeration that manga is doing. Manga is giving us exaggeration. So with manga taking up all those shelves, when you crack open a manga, you are going to be looking at the exact same exaggerations that the 90s left behind. From short, squatty, ripped, incredibly incredibly, uh, 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 you know, muscular bodies to long, lean bodies, all manner of exaggerations, all manner of incredibly, funny, what do you call it? Expressions, really funny, exaggerated expressions. Nothing, no manga that I've seen is even remotely photorealistic. So the '90s are making a giant comeback, and I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to wrap this whole baby up by sharing with you ways that I believe we are not leaving the '90s behind. I'm going to tell you beyond comic books, so I can tell you that these incredible visuals that were made by, I mean, so many incredible. I left out Larry Stroman, okay, who Wills Portacio, obviously one of the Image crew, but you just keep going. Frank Miller on Sin City was doing some of the biggest, boldest visuals of his entire career. It was an exciting time when pages were meant to just reach out, grab you, and pull you in. The creators and the arts in the '90s were they were unafraid, they were undeterred, okay? They just wanted to kick your ass with the most exciting storytelling possible. And lots of times that did involve um, giant figures and faces. And, one of the guys I've talked about it many times, the guy who started utilizing the big giant face, the big giant head better than anybody I had seen was Mark Silvestri. Like, whether it was on the Darkness or Cyberforce. And I'm like, wow, he's really pushing the giant head. This last year I did Deadpool Team Up. I was determined to do the biggest giant face I'd ever done in a comic, and I did it with a double page close up of the Hulk that's about cropped right here, and so the staples are right here. It's a big giant green face yelling at you that I thought was really going to do the trick. It's the one that spread got more notice from people who I interact with on live streams, when I'm doing my whatnots or my eBays, or on X, or on the Facebook groups, or on Instagram. It was the one that got the most. I think people just, the bigness, the largesse of it just blew people away. We have gotten away from that because the stories that are created are not created with that representing the most value. And what you as the artist have to do is you have to take over. You have to create the renaissance that we're all waiting for. You have to take power into your own hands. Here's why I know that the '90s are roaring all the way back, and we haven't shaken them even by a little. So forever in the horror realm, in the horror slasher thriller realm, it's Michael Myers, it's Freddy from Friday the 13th, and it's Jason. It's Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's Jason from Friday the 13th. It was their world. Michael Myers, his mask, Jason, his hockey mask, and then Freddy, his, all of Freddy's different, his claw, his burned face, his hat, his sweater. They had come to represent the very best, the most iconic of the most iconic of the horror thriller icons. Except a couple years back, they decided to, after distancing themselves from one sequel, took about another decade, maybe 8 years, but they made Scream. Scream is a '90s franchise. Scream is a product of the '90s that blew up and had immediate follow-ups, did huge box office, and then was left behind, and was seen as kind of a '90s indulgence. Well, suddenly the Jen Ortega Scream movies take off, they blow up, then she leaves, and they recast everybody, and then that one does really well. And now they're making either a third or they're making a fourth. A Scream is suddenly a giant franchise today, a '90s franchise. let's not stop there. Let's go to I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you weren't alive in the 90s, you weren't aware of how impactful the Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt horror franchise was. It was so big, and it in and of itself was seen as trying to co-opt some of the Scream juice. But I Know What You Did Last Summer was a giant runaway massive success that immediately got a sequel, and then we never heard of it again. So there hasn't been one in almost 30 years, but there's one coming back this summer. Freddie Prinze Jr. is back. Jennifer Love Hewitt is back. They've got these giant promos for it. It's getting a ton of buzz. 90s. Byproduct of the 90s. Who just had one of the biggest renaissances of anybody in the last year? She was everybody, and up until the last minute, we all believed she was going to win that Oscar, to go with that Golden Globe. Demi Moore, striptease, G.I. Jane, Ghost. She was the 90s female icon. At one point, the highest paid female in Hollywood. At one point, the highest paid female in Hollywood, the female star. She was, I think, for G.I. Jane, for striptease, she got like I'm going to tell you right now, my attorney was her attorney. My attorney was Jim Carrey's attorney. My attorney, her name was Deborah Klein. She represented me for about a decade. She was fantastic. She went out of her way to let everybody know, I'm getting Jim Carrey the biggest payday in the history of an actor. And then she followed it up and got Demi Moore the biggest payday. And you sit there and you look at what happened with Demi Moore in regards to everything that happened with the substance. And she is the 90s again, just roaring back into our faces. And all of the recalls, to striptease, to Ghost, there was a movie that she did with Woody Harrelson and Robert Redford in the 90s. There's a Michael Douglas kind of sexual thriller. I mean, she was the dynamo. Demi Moore back full throttle, book and rolls all over the place. Demi Moore, 90s icon. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Scream. Last summer there was some doubts. Is there any juice left in this franchise? And then Bad Boys 4. Bad Boys Ride or Die blew the doors off. I remember I was overseas at the time. And I was counting down the weeks till Deadpool Wolverine being released. And you got good signs from the box office. And Will Smith and Martin Lawrence back together with Bad Boys. The fourth Bad Boy, Ride or Die. So weird, because I thought the fourth one would be Bad Boys for Life, but that was the third one. But Bad Boys, Ride or Die, huge follow-up to their 2020 return. So Bad Boys, giant billion-dollar franchise now, came out in 1995, a product of the 90s. Will Smith blew up on television in the Bel Air, Prince of Bel Air, then obviously Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, Bad Boys. The 90s are roaring back. 2024 saw Venom in its third movie and Deadpool in his third movie. Deadpool made $1 billion. Venom keeps making money all the time. What's the big movie this year? It's a movie that was launched in 1993. What everyone believes is going to be the biggest live action movie of the summer is Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever they're calling it. Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, that Jurassic. That is a product of 90s. Not the novel, the movie. The movie is what landed Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg with his giant flex. That is a 90s franchise. We are getting a giant sequel to that, another installment, seen to be the biggest hit, Universal's best foot forward. The number one live action of the summer, barring some giant miracle. And I've covered in another podcast. People just love those movies. I mean, whether it's the comic books and the resurgence and the love affair. I was always about the 70s, the Bronze Age, and I still am. They still edge the 90s out. But the 90s body of superhero action adventure comics, because you can't call Sin City a superhero comic. You can't call 300. Frank Miller And his landscape presentation, again, everything was a double-page spread so that when it was collected, it was in a hardcover landscape. Oh my gosh, so brilliant. Frank was thinking visually. It was like he was composing a scroll. He was like rolling it out on parchment. Okay, he was thinking visually first and foremost of how best to make this retelling of the Battle of Thermopylae. Okay, this ancient tale. How am I going to grab you by the short hairs? I'm going to do it in this specific presentation. I know what you did last summer. Scream, Bad Boys, Jurassic Park. We are living in the blow up of the 90s right now. And you know what? Right before I came on here, I was reminded that they're doing an Age of Apocalypse book at Marvel, trying to scratch that itch. Best of luck to them. There is tremendous success in there. There is a tremendous vein to be tapped. I hope that they've got the right people in order to do it. I know Jeff will be up for the task. I got to be more familiar with the art because I'm not. The 90s ain't going anywhere. They are having a giant resurgence. And again, can you imagine? I saw a documentary about the hair metal guys and how the hair metal guys are playing out to bigger arenas. And by that, I mean like Poison, Rat, Motley Crue, those guys. Except they don't have any competition from the 90s guys. As I said, Nirvana can't show up. Pearl Jam is the only one. Stone Temple Pilots can't. Soundgarden can't. You know that some of the greatest 90s music was wiped out with tragic deaths. I hope to God I've given you a lot to think about because the 90s keep winning. We are in a 90s renaissance. People are flocking. These reprints of Youngblood, of a 33-year-old comic, blew out, sold out. This brand new book that I started to distribute direct to consumer. I'm doing 5 times the business on Youngblood that I was doing on Deadpool. And Deadpool was very successful. Deadpool, Venom, all of this stuff. We are in a 90s renaissance. The 90s don't know how to do anything other than win, and win. And those pages, stories, experiences, designs, layouts are a blueprint for further success. We've gotten so far away from it that if you go back and you cling to it, and some of you should right now, you will reap the rewards. But you've got to enact complete, total creative control. You have to. You just have to. Guys, thank you for listening to me. I'm trying to get used to this video component, the glaring light. You know, I don't have a professional studio, but I'm going to keep coming at you. Let's just call it. It doesn't really apply. A raw dog. We're raw dogging this podcast. This is my laptop. It's technological raw dog. Okay. I got my mic. Right here. Okay. I got my camera. You know, I keep checking to see if the mic is working. One time we dropped for just a minute. Again, it's all part of doing this. I don't have a giant network. I'm just banging this out myself, but I'm having a blast. And I thank you for coming along for this ride. You guys know when I'm not on doing these podcasts, I am on the platform formerly known as Twitter. I'm on X at Robert Liefeld. Here you're going to see me, RobertLiefeld, blue check mark. I am the real deal. I am the genuine article. That's who you're talking to. Your replies, your mentions, your DMs, your comments. I'm reading all of them. I'm interacting with you. Some of you guys are super salty and cranky. It's okay that we don't like the same stuff, okay? It's okay. You don't always have to resort to insults. But if you do, I'm a big boy. I can take it. I love X. It is so interactive. I dig it. I am so thrilled by it. I am on Instagram at Rob Liefeld. Just blue check. RobertLiefeld. I read your comments, your mentions, your replies, your DMs. Thank you so much for following me on both X and on Instagram. Rob Liefeld on Instagram, Robert Liefeld on X. I will look for you over there. I love the interconnectivity. I love the way that we can talk and go back and forth. And like I said, the word connect. We are connected in these ways. I can talk to a guy from Austria. I can talk to a guy from Africa. I can talk to a guy from England, from Texas, all in the span of a few minutes. And it's such a thrill. I love it. I think it is a tremendous tool that we have to use. We have a group over on Facebook. It's called Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We invite everybody to jump over there. We're just growing every day. More and more membership is just thriving. We talk about comics and we have great energy and no trolls and no negativity. And we have honest assessments of what's going on, what we love, what we grew up with. Every one of these episodes gets a dedicated thread that we can discuss. And I look forward to discussing it with you. I am thrilled to interact with you guys in that group. So join us, Rob Liefeld. It's a Facebook group, Rob Liefeld, Marvel Extreme and Beyond. We have art contests there as well. And I have a co-administrator on the page, Terry Sala, Sala. He will likely also be the one who clicks you in or, gets your approval and gets you the other side. We look forward to we look forward to you joining us. There's a live stream app called Whatnot. You should get it. You should download it. You should follow Rob Liefeld. You'll be notified when I go live. Because I got custom signatures. Do I have any here? All of this stuff, all of these books, which are available only through me, are stuff that we offer up. Is this signed? I can't see. Nope, that's not signed, but it will be. It has been. But it's all of these exclusive products that aren't coming to your store, that aren't going to be at your store. You're not going to get a manga Youngblood anywhere else but through me on my Whatnot streams. We put them up for reorder on robliefeldcreations.com, which is my website. Right now we have a robliefeldcreations.com exclusive for a Fantastic Worlds comic store in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm going to be there on May 31st. And there's an exclusive Youngblood comic book that will only be available that day, delivered that day, picked up that day at the store. I can't wait to be there. But sometimes we put this stuff on Rob Liefeld Creations for pre-order. But once we go to press, we pull it. It's gone. It's out of stock. And then it will land on our live streams. So you can join us on Whatnot. Follow me, Rob Liefeld. You'll be notified. Go to my robliefeldcreations.com. That's the full URL. Go there. Check it out. All the different ways that, again, we can connect. I'm just trying to lay it out for you. Oh, boy. Too much fun. We continue to try and create the best podcast experience that we possibly can, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep at it. You guys know that each and every week I care deeply about how you're doing, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Stay at it. Get off the grindstone. Take time for yourself. Totally chill out. Remove that stress, that burden. Get to a different time. Get to a different place. See a movie. Read a book. Hang out with your friends. Have a great dessert. Have a great meal. Grab that coffee with your buddies. Go to that diner. Hang out. Get on the phone with somebody. Reconnect. Just do not let the treadmill get you down. So check this out. Here's the bottom line. As I was giving you, because I believe in keeping it raw. I told you we're raw dogging it. As I was giving you kind of the telling you how I care and I want you to address whatever burdens, whatever stress you're taking. Get off that grind. Get off that treadmill. Find relaxation, comfort. Out of the corner of my eye, because there's a Domino's pizza guy delivering a pizza that clearly my son has ordered. So I was completely distracted by the dude right here. So hey, that's part of what makes it fun. That's part of what makes it crazy. Take care of yourself. That's the bottom line. We all have to advocate for ourselves first and foremost. And my kid was advocating for himself by getting that late night pizza, okay? Because he's hungry and he's working out hard and he needs to be fed. I get it. Do what you got to do. Take care of yourself. Stay out of trouble. Thank you for listening. Do not, as I said, do not leave me behind. Come back. Find me. I'll be here, right out there, waiting for you, okay? Here we go. Do not. And here's why you're not going to leave me behind, because we are going to most definitely absolutely, inevitably, we are going to talk again real soon.